Do you respect Putin?
I do respect him.
Do you? Why?
Well, I respect a lot of people, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get along with him. He's a leader of his country. I say it's better to get along with Russia than not. And if Russia helps us in the fight against ISIS, which is a major fight, and Islamic terrorism all over the world,
right?
Major fight, that's a good thing. Will I get along with him? I have no idea. It's very
He's a
possible
killer,
I
though.
won't.
Putin's a killer.
A lot of killers. You get a lot of killers. Why, you think our country's so innocent? You think our country's so innocent?
I don't know of any government leaders that are killers in America.
Well, take a look at what we've done, too. We've made a lot of mistakes. I've been against the war in Iraq from the beginning.
Yeah, mistakes are different than...
A lot of mistakes, okay, but a lot of people were killed. So a lot of killers around, believe me.
President Trump under fresh fire from both sides of the aisle after downplaying Russian President Vladimir Putin's violent past during a pre-Super Bowl interview with Fox News. The backlash from Mr. Trump's own party was swift.
I don't think there's any equivalency between the way the Russians that conduct themselves and the way the United States does.
Vice President Pence struggling to clarify on Meet the Press.
I don't accept that it's a moral equivalency. I really don't.
Do you think he misspoke?
No.
It's just the latest of a series of comments President Trump has made about Russia, drawing charges he's not being tough enough on Putin.
You know, Hallie, I'm actually incredulous that the president would make a statement like that. One can argue that's the most anti-American statement ever made by the President of the United States. To confuse American values with Putin, who's running a criminal oligarchy, who kills people abroad and at home, who imprisons journalists and takes away business property, who shares it with his former KGB agents, who invades and seizes Crimea and eastern Ukraine. This is an astonishing state of affairs. Hard to know what to think about it.
Isn't the difference, Congressman, that, for example, Russia purposefully bombed in Syria and killed civilians, whereas the United States has obviously, there are airstrikes where civilians have been killed, but not purposefully, as in the case of Russia. And as Marco Rubio, your Republican colleague, said, you know, Democrats have not allegedly poisoned their Republican opponents and vice versa in the United States.
I agree 100% with you on that comment. Absolutely. You know, but things have happened and we have to take the responsibility. It's like the hospital that got blown up that America did. You know, we did that and it was unintentional, but still people died. So if you want to say, well, did people get killed by the United States government? Absolutely. But that's happened when we're in acts of war. If you go back to World War II, I think there was over 70,000 people that were killed that were innocent or civilians in the bombing raids.
Look, he has some point. We have killed a lot of people in the U.S. under Barack Obama, under George W. Bush, and certainly going back farther. If you go back far enough, we've overthrown democratically elected governments. We've started coups. We've invaded countries. I don't think that recently we've invaded countries like Russia invaded Crimea simply to add to our territory, but we certainly have occupied a lot of places, killed a lot of people.
Another big theme of the past 2.5 weeks is the rest of the media getting really invested in whatever sideshow is going on. And right now we're seeing that with the Kremlin and with Russian President Putin, the comments that the president made to Bill O'Reilly and the Kremlin saying they didn't like Bill O'Reilly saying that Vladimir Putin is a killer, demanding an apology from him. The media really pouncing on this. And again, it's one of those things that while there are policy changes going on, they get very invested in this kind of, you know, back and forth. Is that a shiny object intentionally maybe being put in front of the press so that they go off in one direction and meanwhile the president is off doing something else? That's kind of what it looks like. What do you think?
Well, you know, it's interesting that so many critics of Donald Trump said that he's unfiltered and, you know, he's going to get us into all kinds of disputes with foreign governments because he's too blunt. He is like the New Testament character of Nathaniel, in whom there is no guile, which means no pretense. There's no phoniness. What you see is what you get. Here's the interesting take on all that. So Donald Trump is acting more statesmanlike and saying, look, I'm not going to call another foreign leader a murderer or a thug on international television because that kind of makes it hard to work with him. So he doesn't do it, and instead of the press saying, yes, you know, he's acting more presidential now rather than just firing off, Now he gets in trouble for that. So proof positive, Melissa, whatever Donald Trump says as president, somebody is not going to like it.
So when he reacts by saying that we are killers too, that doesn't strike you as moral equivalence, or and as
I'm not going to say it didn't. My job was to elicit answers from him, not debate him in that. It was a hard news interview, and perhaps he did make that equivalency. I took it the other way. It was a matter of he doesn't want personal judgments. But I'll tell you what the other headline was.
You thought the other networks were distorting him by saying it was a moral
I didn't say
equivalence?
they were distorting it. I'm saying they were looking for a hammer to use on his head.